Shopping. It's something we all have to do in life, whether you like it or hate it. Of course, the same applies to video games too. I mean, how else would you feel the joy of grabbing the game, opening the case, and reading the back of the case and manual constantly, sniffing it for that new game scent? Point is, it's fun to shop for games, but sometimes you don't want to really do that. Well, ordering from retailers like Amazon and then having it delivered to your house is also a choice. But what if there's delays? What if you don't want to wait? What if you don't feel comfortable interacting in person? What if you just don't like how certain game stores turn into a glorified merch store? Well, that's where digital storefronts come into play. While I personally prefer physical games, I can't deny how convenient digital games can be. Well, most of the time. To me, they both have their pros and cons, and it's really up to personal preference. With that being said, to get these digital games, there has to be some sort of store to do so, and you can find these in many of the console, and boom, you're shopping now. While it's a standard now, back then this sort of stuff was unheard of. Nintendo has to be probably the most memorable example too, at least back then, because while their other consoles had shops as well, there wasn't really anything that stood out about them, but when Nintendo did digital storefronts, yeah, it was great. Before you even enter the shop, the channel is already enticing you, and once you enter the shop, whoo boy, the slick menus, the catchy tune that livens up things, it just oozes personality. Even the download screens are fun. They didn't need to do that, but they did. Anyways, this is a shop, so what is there to buy? Well, you're not gonna find full retail Wii games here, that's for sure. See, the Wii only had about like 512 megabytes of storage in it, and there was no option to use an external storage media, so the titles in the shop had to be bite-sized. Thankfully, you could move these titles to the SD card as well if you had to. But regardless, the most noteworthy thing you could find here in the shop was the Virtual Console line. This was basically your way of playing older games on your Wii, ranging from the NES all the way to the N64. There were even some additional consoles thrown in too, like the Sega Master System, Sega Genesis, and the goddamn TurboGrafx 16. They didn't get all the games in, but it was still mind-blowing to see. The games themselves were also, which is pretty much emulation, but the bare bones kind, as you couldn't even save or load state, and you'd have to pray that the game would start from where you left off when closing it. But for something back in 2006, it's not too bad. But aside from the Virtual Console, there was also WiiWare. These are basically original titles crafted for servers, being bite-sized games. There was a lot of junk to sift through, but when you found good shit, it was good shit. But alongside the Wii Shop Channel, Nintendo would also launch another shop in 2009, exclusive to their new model of the DS, DSi. Welcome to the Nintendo DSi shop. Yeah, this is kinda lame. If the Wii Shop Channel was this awesome store that everyone went to, then the DSi shop would be that store people would go to when the other store is closed or packed. Look, I'm not saying the store sucks, because it still oozes personality from the Wii counterpart, mainly with the slick interface and music. The issue here is that there's nothing really of note in the shop. The DSi didn't have a GBA slot, so you'd think they at least put some Game Boy Color titles in the shop, right? Fuck you, here's a calculator instead. DSiWare is basically WiiWare on the DSi, but there's far less interesting stuff here if you ask me. Aside from the couple of apps here and there, most of the stuff offered on the service was just stripped down versions of DS games. I'm not saying the entire service is like this, but a good chunk of it was to me, and as a result, I just don't find myself looking back at this as fondly. But at least I can see why someone would like this shop a lot. I'm just not that person. Sadly, both shops would close down, with the DSi shop going down in 2017 and the Wii Shop Channel going down in 2019. It sucks that they went down, and I wish Nintendo was better at handling their legacy. Surely, the next generation would improve on this, right? Can you tell that I have the most nostalgia for these shops? Yeah, so the 3DS and Wii U eShops basically take everything about the previous shots but amps it up to 11. The interface is a lot cleaner and slicker, there's different music tracks depending on the time of the year, and the biggest change, you can get full retail games digitally. On top of that, the 3DS eShop also offered Virtual Console and DSiWare on top of that. Granted, not all titles were accounted for, but it was great that we basically got what was on the Wii, barring the N64 and TurboGrafx 16. They even had the Game Boy and Game Boy Color line, not to mention the Game Gear for some reason. but I'm sure some people appreciate it, so it's fine by me. Though it's lame that Game Boy Advance games are basically forever locked behind people who got 3DS back in 2011. Also, why are Super Nintendo games new 3DS only? I'm pretty sure you could emulate a good chunk of these on an old 3DS, so what gives? I know they're weaker, but not by that much, right? Those gripes aside, it's also nice that you have some games exclusive to the shops as well, but unlike WiiWare or DSiWare games, these felt like full experiences that could easily be retail games. Sure, there still was junk to sift through, but the amount of quality stuff you could find there cancels that out for me. All of what I said just now also applies to the Wii U eShop. The only real difference there is that the Virtual Console line. See, with the 3DS, I didn't mind them being the same games you did being on the 3DS for the first time, but with the Wii U, it took them a while to roll out the same games on the Wii Virtual Console. It didn't help that you could just boot into the Wii mode to play these on the Wii U. And sure, it looks better on the Wii U, but why wait and pay for more when you can just enter Wii mode? It doesn't help that a lot of the new systems added also just felt like missed opportunities. Like, it's nice to have some Wii games here, but why not add GameCube games? You already have a whole Wii in there, so it's not like it can't be done. It is nice to see DS games though, given the whole gamepad and TV setup. Probably one of the rare cases of the damn brick being useful, honestly. But anyways, it didn't help that the Virtual Console games of the Wii U, mainly the SNES and N64 ones, had this ugly dark filter around it. Thankfully, you can remove it with mods in this day and age, but god, is it ugly. But all that aside, I still look at these shops fondly. Mostly a 3DS one, even though I couldn't buy squat, but it's while Nintendo went out of their way to make shopping fun. They didn't have to, but they did. Sadly, most of these shops will close down in 2023, and it makes me glad everything on these shops has been archived. I mean, I get there are these unsupported consoles, but why shut off an entire generation of your library? That's a tangent for another day. Anyways, all this talk makes me wonder how much better they could do in the next generation. There's no music, no personality, and the shop itself lags frequently. God damn!